The cold wind howled through the empty land, sharp like knives. Snow fell hard from the gray sky, covering everything in white. It was a deadly storm. No one should have been outside. But Eli was not just anyone. Eli was a human explorer. He was used to danger. He had come to this frozen planet weeks ago for research, but now he just wanted to find shelter and survive the storm. He walked slowly, goggles over his eyes, thick coat around his body. Each step crunched into deep snow. His boots were heavy, his breath fogged the air, and his fingers were numb inside. His gloves, then he stopped, a sound faint, very faint. He held his breath, there it was again, a cry. Not the wind, a child. He turned toward the sound and moved carefully. The snow was thick, the wind tried to push him back, but he followed the voice. It was weak, like it didn't have much time left. After a few more steps, he saw something. A small shape, curled, up behind a fallen metal pole. Eli rushed forward. It was a child, an alien child. The child had thin arms and big eyes. Its skin was pale blue, lips almost purple. It shook badly and held something tightly in its arms. Eli knelt beside the child. "Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you." The child looked up. His eyes were filled with tears and fear. "Pete, please," the child whispered. "Help, Mama. She no wake." Eli gently touched the shape in the child's arms. It wasn't a bag. It was a person, an adult female alien, the mother. She was ice cold. Her body was wrapped around the child as if she had protected him from the storm with her own life. Eli checked her pulse. Faint, too faint, but she was alive. Barely. "Come on," Eli said. "We can't stay here." He took off his coat and wrapped it around the child. The child didn't resist. He was too cold, too weak. Eli carefully lifted the mother and placed her over his shoulder. Then he picked up the child with his other arm. The snow was deeper now, the wind louder. But Eli moved fast. He had seen a small cave on his map earlier. Maybe it wasn't far. He prayed it wasn't far. The child leaned against him. "You not take us back?" Eli looked down at him. "Back where?" "To the ones who left us," the child said, voice breaking. "They said Mama was useless. They left us here to die." Eli's jaw clenched. He didn't reply. After what felt like hours, he reached the cave. It was dark, but dry. He quickly laid down the mother and the child. His hands shook as he pulled out his emergency gear. He lit a small fire. It burned slowly, warming the cave. He gave the child a heat pack and wrapped him in a blanket. "What's your name?" Eli asked. The boy looked at him. "Luma." Eli smiled gently. "I'm Eli. You're safe now, Luma." He then turned to the mother. Her breathing was shallow. Her skin was turning white like the snow. She needed help. Fast. He rubbed her arms to get blood flowing again. He placed heat packs near her body. Not too close. If she warmed too fast, it could be worse. "She carried me all night," Luma whispered. "She didn't sleep. She gave me all the warm clothes." Eli's heart tightened. This mother had given everything to keep her child alive. Eli added more fuel to the fire. The cave warmed little by little. The child started to stop shaking. The mother didn't wake. Eli checked her pulse again, still weak. He looked at the comm device on his wrist. He could try to call for help, but would they come in this storm? Would they help aliens, or would they do what those others did, leave them? He stared at the fire. One thing was clear. He couldn't leave them. He wouldn't. The wind outside roared like a beast, but inside the cave the fire crackled quietly. Eli kept checking the alien mother's heartbeat. Slow. Weak. But still there. Her skin was so cold it felt like touching stone. Her name was still a mystery. Beside her, the little boy Luma had finally stopped shivering. He stared at the flames with wide, tired eyes. His small hands clutched a blanket so tightly his knuckles turned white. Eli placed another heat pack near the mother's neck. "Why isn't she waking up?" Luma whispered. Eli looked into the fire. Her body is in shock. She used all her energy to protect you. Now, she needs time to come back. But, Luma's voice cracked. What if she doesn't? Eli paused. He looked at the child, then at the mother, then back at the fire. She will, Eli said softly. Because you're waiting for her, and because I'll help. Luma wiped his eyes. They said no one helps people like us, that no one cares. Eli didn't respond, but his eyes burned with quiet anger. Hours passed. The storm outside hadn't calmed, but inside the cave was warmer now. Eli melted snow in a pot and poured the water into a small tin. He offered it to Luma. The boy sipped carefully. He stared at Eli with big blinking eyes. You're not scared of us? He asked. Eli smiled a little. No. Should I be? Luma looked down. My kind. We look different. We come from the edges. The cities call us trash. Eli sat beside him. You're not trash, you're a child, and your mother's a hero. The boy's eyes watered again. Eli turned back to the mother. Her face was still pale, lips cracked. He lifted her wrist. A slow pulse, still there. But she hadn't moved at all. Eli took a scanner from his bag. Basic medical gear. The screen flashed red. Organ failure risk. Internal temperature. Dangerously low. Eli's face tightened. He gently opened a nutrient pack and fed a few drops into her mouth. Come on, fight, he whispered. Just then, Luma sat up. I know something, he said. Mama once said, when someone is almost gone, we use this. He opened a pouch from her belt. Inside was a small, soft crystal, faintly glowing blue. Eli frowned. What is it? Heartstone, Luma said. It connects life. It can help her remember me. Maybe. Eli hesitated, then nodded. He placed the crystal against the mother's chest. The glow spread slowly. Her breathing stuttered. Then, her fingers twitched. Eli and Luma both froze. Mother, Luma whispered, crawling closer. The woman's eyelids fluttered, then slowly opened. She stared at her son first, then at Eli. Her voice was dry and broken. Why, human? Eli smiled gently. Because I couldn't walk away. She stared at him, confused. Weak. Her body still fragile. I saved him, she whispered. Yes, Eli said. And now, we're saving you. Suddenly, Eli's comm device beeped. A signal. Someone was listening, but it wasn't human. The voice crackled through the speaker. Unidentified human, you are harboring fugitives. You have 60 minutes to surrender them. Eli's blood went cold. He looked at Luma. The boy was shaking again, but this time with fear. They found us. The voice on the comm repeated coldly, You are harboring fugitives. Prepare for collection. Eli stared at the small device in disbelief. He hadn't sent a location signal. How had they found him? Snow still fell heavily outside. No aircraft could land in this storm, unless they were desperate or dangerous. The alien mother sat up slowly, still weak, her eyes filled with alarm. That voice. It's the patrol, she whispered. They don't come to rescue. They come to erase. Luma grabbed her arm tightly. They left us to die before. Eli stood quickly and stepped toward the cave entrance, pulling the emergency curtain tight over it. He checked the oxygen scanner. It blinked red. Outside presence detected. Someone was coming. No, many someones. They're already here, Eli muttered. Luma cried, We have to hide. No, Eli said. They'll search. There's no escape in a cave. The mother touched his hand. Her skin was warmer now, but her voice trembled. You don't understand. They called me unfit because I questioned orders. They punished me by exiling us here. They won't let us live. Eli clenched his jaw. These people, he said slowly, They abandoned a mother and child in a snowstorm. And now they call you the criminal? The mother nodded. That's their way. Footsteps outside, heavy, slow. Eli turned off the fire and dimmed the cave lights. He told Luma to stay silent, tucked close to his mother. He grabbed his old rifle, non-lethal, just a stunner, but enough to buy time. Then came the voice again. Right outside. Human. Step outside, return the fugitives. Do this, and your life will be spared. Eli exhaled slowly. Then he called out, You left a child to die. What kind of law do you follow? Silence. Then came a colder reply. A law that keeps weakness from spreading. Eli gritted his teeth. He whispered to the mother. How many of them? She closed her eyes. 4. Maybe 5. All armored. One is the speaker. A high-rank enforcer. Eli nodded. If I distract them, can you move? She hesitated, then nodded. If I must. He looked at Luma. Be brave. Stay behind her. Eli stepped out. Snow slapped his face instantly. He walked slowly toward the glowing red eyes in the dark. 5 tall alien soldiers stood in a wide line, weapons raised. Snow covered their metal suits, but the glowing lights on their arms were alive and ready. The leader stepped forward. You are making a mistake. Eli kept calm. No, I'm doing what's right. Then die with them, the soldier said. They raised their weapons, but before they could fire, a loud crack echoed through the mountains. An avalanche? No. A rumble. Something big. The ground trembled. The soldiers paused. Eli looked up toward the ridge. And there, a massive shape moved through the storm. Dark, powerful, alive. The patrol soldiers turned toward it, guns now shaking. One whispered, Not now. Not here. The leader shouted, Fall back! Fall back! Too late. The creature leapt down. A native ice beast, huge and angry, disturbed by the voices and weapons. It roared with fury and landed between Eli and the soldiers. Eli ran back to the cave. Now, he shouted. The mother stood, holding Luma, close, and they fled through the back tunnel, a narrow escape path she remembered from when she first arrived. Behind them, the beast roared again. Blasts fired. The snow lit up with flashes. Deep inside the ice tunnel, the mother finally stopped. She fell to her knees, gasping. Eli knelt beside her. Luma held her tight, crying softly. They're distracted, Eli said, but they'll come again. The mother looked at him through tears. Why did you help us? Eli looked at the frightened child, then at her bruised face, and he answered, Because compassion is not weakness. It's what makes us human. The ice tunnel was dark, narrow, and cold, but it was safe. For now. Eli led the way with a small light on his shoulder, its beam flickering over the jagged ice walls. Behind him, the alien mother walked slowly, her arms around Luma. Her legs trembled with each step, but she didn't stop. Not with her son in her arms. Not after coming this far. Eli turned to her. We need a place to rest. You're burning up. She nodded slowly. This body, not healed, but I can keep going. Luma held tighter to her waist. Don't fall, Mama. Please. Eli kept moving. He knew this tunnel couldn't go on forever. Somewhere along this glacier there had to be shelter. He had studied this region's maps before landing here. If memory was right, yes, there was an old human outpost nearby. Long, abandoned, frozen over, but it might still have power and hope. An hour later, their tunnel opened to a ledge. Beyond it stood a half-buried building, rusted, cracked, but real. Eli's heart jumped. This is it, he whispered. We made it. They climbed down carefully. The wind had softened, but frost still stung their skin. Eli pried open the frozen door. Ice broke with each push. Finally, the old base opened its mouth to them. Darkness inside. Then, click, emergency. Lights flickered on, weak but alive. The outpost still had power. Inside, warmth slowly spread through the air. Eli lit a small fire in the corner using scrap wood and fuel. The smell of smoke filled the metal walls. It wasn't much, but after the snowstorm, it felt like summer. He found a med kit and opened it. Most supplies were expired, but some could still work. He carefully scanned the mother's chest and checked her vitals. Still low body heat, he said. But better. He handed her a hot drink. She accepted it with shaking hands. Why do this for us? She whispered again. Eli smiled faintly. Because someone has to. Later, while the mother slept wrapped in blankets, Luma sat near the fire with Eli. She never stopped fighting for me, Luma whispered, even when they called her weak. She's not weak, Eli said. She's the strongest person I've met. Luma stared into the fire, then asked, Will they come again? Yes, Eli said softly. They won't stop. Not until they think you're gone. Suddenly, the fire flickered violently. The temperature sensor beeped. Eli stood up fast. Motion outside. They were back. But this time, there was something different. Eli looked out through the frosted window. He saw 3 new figures, not soldiers, scouts. These weren't coming to fight. They were coming to confirm death, to scan for bodies and wipe the record clean. No survivors meant no shame for their people. Eli clenched his fists. He turned to the small fire. It had burned through nearly all the fuel, but it was still alive, flickering, fighting like them. He stared at it, then made a decision. He opened the emergency panel. Inside was an old, unstable flare cannon, illegal now on most human worlds. Dangerous, loud, perfect. He aimed it toward the sky. The flare shot out like a screaming light and exploded above the outpost. The scouts turned. Now they knew. Someone inside was still alive. Eli ran back in. We move, now. He helped the mother stand. She looked at him, confused. Why did you call them? I didn't call them, he said. I challenged them. You want them to see us? Eli looked at her calmly. I want them to know we're not afraid anymore. Outside, the scouts started sending messages to the patrol fleet, but this time it was different. One of the scouts looked up at the flare still glowing above and muttered, Why would a human die for them? He didn't know yet. But soon, the whole system would. Outside the frozen outpost, the snow had stopped falling, but danger still hung heavy in the air. The flare Eli launched was still burning in the sky, a red symbol of defiance. The light bounced off the snow-covered land, reaching far beyond the cliffs and hills. It was a signal, a warning. A fight was coming. Inside the outpost, Luma clung to his mother's arm. She had regained some strength but was still pale, her breath slow. Eli stood near the control panel watching the blinking screen. 3 scouts, but they're calling for more. The mother nodded. They won't stop. They're not just here for me. They don't want the story to get out. That one of their own was left to die, and saved by a human. Eli glanced at her. Then we'll make sure someone hears it. He typed fast, sending a data burst into deep space, using an old Earth military code. It carried a simple message. 2 alien civilians, abandoned, alive. Request protection. Coordinates locked. The system blinked twice. Message sent. Just then the ice outside cracked, a deep echoing sound. Not from a weapon, not from a ship, from below. Eli turned his head sharply. Did you hear that? The mother froze. Yes, but that's impossible. She rushed to the back wall of the outpost and knelt beside a floor grate. Eli followed her. She placed her hand on the cold metal and whispered, The under-ice river. What? Eli asked. She looked at him with alarm. This place sits on top of an ancient glacier river. If too much weight or energy hits it, the whole ground could collapse. Just then, boom. Outside, a ship landed. Heavy. Violent. Too heavy. The floor trembled. Cracks formed beneath their feet. Alarms inside the outpost screamed to life. Warning. Structural instability detected. Luma screamed, "Mama!" She grabbed him tight. Eli grabbed his pack. "We need to move, now!" They ran out the back exit just as a deep rumble shook the entire station. The red flare light disappeared in a sudden blast of white snow. And then, the ground split open. The patrol ship outside sank straight down as the ice cracked and gave way, pulling part of the land into a freezing pit. Eli shielded Luma as snow and wind blasted them. The mother held her son tight, screaming his name over the roar. Then, silence. The scouts were gone. The ship, buried. The flare, snuffed. All that remained was the outpost, broken, and 3 survivors, barely standing. Eli looked around. The destruction had bought them a few hours, maybe more. But now, they were out in the open again. Suddenly, a voice crackled through Eli's comm. "Incoming signal. Human signature detected. Friendly." He froze. A map flashed onto his wrist screen. A nearby Earth rescue ship, responding to the distress signal he sent just minutes earlier, was inbound. "They heard us," Eli whispered. "They actually heard us." The mother stared at him, stunned. "You risked everything just to get that message out?" He looked down at her and said softly, "Truth needs someone brave enough to speak it." Luma stepped forward, looking up at the sky. "Are we really saved?" Eli didn't answer, because he knew the hardest part was still coming. The storm had ended. The sky was clear now, pale and endless. The wind had quieted, but the cold still stung. Eli stood at the edge of the collapsed ice shelf, staring at the wreckage below. The patrol ship was gone, buried under tons of ice. No one could have survived. He should have felt safe. But he didn't. Because silence after violence is never peace. It's the beginning of the next danger. Behind him, the alien mother wrapped her arms around Luma, holding him close beneath her, thin cloak. Her skin was still pale, but her body no longer shook. The heat packs Eli gave her had worked. She was healing. But her eyes were filled with something Eli hadn't seen in them before. Not fear, not pain, but something harder. Decision. Voice crackled from Eli's wrist communicator. Human presence confirmed. Rescue ship ETA, 9 minutes. They were finally getting out. He turned to the mother. "A ship's coming. It'll take us to safety." She didn't answer at first. Then she asked softly, "Will they accept us? Me and my son?" Eli crouched down, beside her. "They'll listen. I'll make sure of it." She stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she did something unexpected. She took off her necklace, a metal band with a glowing stone. She placed it in Eli's hand. "What is this?" he asked gently. She spoke with a quiet voice. "In my people's culture, we give this only once. It means we trust the one who holds it, more than ourselves." Eli blinked. He didn't know what to say. He simply closed his fingers around it and nodded. "I'll protect both of you. You have my word." Then, a low hum in the air. The rescue ship. It broke through the clouds above like a silver eagle. Its wings gleamed in the sunlight as it descended slowly onto the icy ground nearby. Snow burst into the air as the ship landed. The mother pulled Luma close, fear returning to her eyes. What if they take him away? "They won't," Eli said. "Not while I'm alive." The hatch opened with a soft hiss. 2 humans stepped out in white coats, medics. Behind them, a tall officer followed. The officer's eyes scanned the scene. His voice was firm. "We received your message, Eli. Where are the civilians?" Eli motioned toward the mother and child. "Right here. They're coming with us." The officer's gaze locked onto the aliens, then onto Eli. "Are you sure they're not a threat?" Eli didn't hesitate. He stepped in front of them. "They're survivors. left to die by their own people. And if we leave them now, we're no better. The mother stepped forward. Her voice cracked as she spoke in Eli's language. I trust him. It was her first full sentence in English. Everyone paused. Even Luma looked up in surprise. The officer slowly nodded. All right, bring them aboard. Inside the ship, the warmth was immediate. Soft lights, medical beds, blankets, real food. Luma fell asleep instantly in his mother's arms. A medic cleaned the frost from her hands. She watched Eli from across the room. He sat alone, quiet. She walked up to him and whispered, Why did you come back for us again and again? Eli looked at her and said, Because the world's broken enough. We don't need more people, turning away. We need people who stand, even in the ice. She touched the necklace still in his hand, and for the first time, she smiled. The human rescue ship flew over the icy land, cutting through the clouds like a warm breath in a frozen world. Inside, silence filled the medical bay, but it was peaceful now, not fearful. Luma slept quietly in his mother's arms, his small chest rising and falling in calm rhythm. His pale blue skin had color again. His lips no longer shook from cold. The alien mother sat beside the bed watching him. One hand stroked his hair gently. The other held Eli's necklace. She had placed it around her neck this time, a symbol of connection, of trust. Eli stood near the window, staring out at the sky. The stars were coming out now. Soon, they would reach the orbiting human station. He didn't know what came next. Would the galaxy care about a single alien mother and her child? Would politicians even listen to their story? He didn't have those answers, but for the first time in days, he didn't feel helpless. The ship's intercom beeped. Prepare for arrival. Docking in 5 minutes. The mother stood slowly. Her body was still healing, but her steps were strong. She walked to Eli and stood beside him. You changed something, she said. Eli looked at her. No. You did. She frowned. I ran. I hid. He shook his head. You fought. You carried your son through the storm. You gave him your warmth while you froze. That's courage. That's love. That's what made me fight too. A tear ran down her cheek, not from pain, but from finally being seen. The ship docked at the station. Doors opened. Eli stepped out first. Doctors and officers rushed forward, asking questions, writing reports, scanning vitals. But Eli ignored them. He turned, held out his hand, and watched as the mother and Luma stepped into the light behind him. The humans stared, some surprised, some unsure. And then, a little girl stepped forward from the crowd, a human child. She walked up to Luma, who blinked at her nervously. She smiled and held out a small toy, a stuffed snow bear. Luma looked at it, then at his mother. She nodded gently. He reached out and took it. That moment changed something. A whisper moved through the people watching. Not fear, not hatred, but hope. Later in the debriefing room, an officer asked Eli, "Why did you risk your life again and again for them? They weren't your responsibility." Eli leaned back in the chair. He looked out the window at the stars and then answered simply, "Because survival isn't enough. Not for humans. We're meant for more. We're meant to care." That quote traveled far. Within days, the story spread to other colonies. Some called Eli a fool, but many called him a hero, and even more, started asking questions about how many others had been left in the cold. Months later, the alien mother sat in a warm garden on a human colony world. Flowers bloomed beside her. Children played on soft grass. Luma ran among them, laughing for the first time. Eli sat under a tree nearby, fixing a small solar lantern. The mother walked up and sat beside him. "Do you still think this all happened? Because of me?" she asked. He nodded with a soft smile. Yes, she looked down. And do you think you'll leave us someday? He looked at her carefully, then answered, Not a chance. You're my family now. And in that strange, beautiful place, where Snow had once tried to take everything away, a mother, a child, and a human who refused to let go, built something better than survival. They built a new beginning, together.